My name is Catherine. I'm a clinical psychologist. Basically, a clinical psychologist is somebody who works with a variety of mental health problems and also people with neurological problems or learning disabilities. It was something kind of that happened. I studied psychology at university just because it looked quite interesting. And then I was told that becoming a clinical psychologist was quite difficult because it was quite competitive, so I didn't really think about it at the time. But then I worked as a secretary in an NHS setting and met some clinical psychologists there and was quite inspired. I think it was kind of the variety of things that you can do. You can be quite creative working with people. Well, the training's really broad, so once you finish the training you do feel a bit like you're a jack of all trades. The job I'm in now is quite specialist, so I would say now that I've developed quite specialist skills working with people specifically with sort of complex eating disorders. So I sort of focus a bit more on sort of the development of the disorder for somebody. So like just looking at past history and past experiences and dynamics within, say, their family growing up and that kind of thing. Sometimes it's a bit like putting together pieces of a jigsaw. Yeah, well, I think sometimes working with people who might be not that interested in sort of getting help or sort of making changes, so we often come across a lot of resistance, and that can be quite frustrating and quite difficult to overcome. And on the one hand you might be thinking, well, you're putting your life at risk doing what you're doing, but on the other hand, I can't force you to make any changes, and that can be quite difficult to work with, and that's something that feels quite challenging. The nature of eating disorders particularly means that people can be stuck in denial for a period of time, or it's very rewarding when you do feel that somebody's really sort of working quite hard, and it's not an easy process for them, and you feel like you're kind of working alongside someone who's motivated, and that can feel really rewarding. And it feels like when you see positive changes in people. Part of the work I do if I'm sort of working psychologically with someone is that I would need to really maintain my boundaries. I'm not there as a friend, but at the same time you want to come across as friendly, and so I try and give a bit of myself. And I think sometimes you hear stories about people's lives and you think, actually, like if that was me, I don't know how you're still standing, kind of thing. Yes, you've perhaps got issues with an eating disorder or depression or whatever, but you kind of see how resilient people can be as well. So you hear some horrific things that have happened to people, or some really difficult times that they've endured, and they seem to be sort of still here and sort of trying to sort of do have quite a lot of respect for the people who I see. And yes, they're coming because they're struggling, but it's often quite difficult for them to come and talk about some different these things. Yeah. So I think that they're very brave that they come and look about making changes and share their stories with us. And I think you have to have a bit of a sense of humour, especially when you're working in quite an emotionally draining place. So we do try and have a laugh when we can, and have moments being a bit silly, and I think you just need to do that to survive.